Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, June 8th, 2028. This is a commissioners meeting. We're live at City Hall Commissioners Room, second floor. I'd like to call this meeting to order at exactly 9 a.m. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In lieu of calling roll call, we'll have the record show that the mayor and full complement of commissioners is present. Therefore, we're able to formally conduct business today. Would like to thank everybody that is here in person, and we welcome feedback and see rules for engaging us at the bottom of the agenda. Also like to thank everybody that's watching virtually. Appreciate you checking in with us. Also a reminder that documents, support documents, those are documents that support our individual agenda items. When they're available sufficient time ahead of the meeting, are embedded in the agenda so that you can see exactly what we're working with. With that, I want to indicate that I need to change sequence of old business. Old business sequencing will be old business C, and then A, and then B. And there is no correspondence other than embedded in the agenda. There's a letter dated May 4th, as you can see from the Historical Society, or from the Historical Society. With that, we're going to move right on to City Manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Good morning and welcome members of the public. First, I am happy to report that the Rehoboth Avenue work is complete. Stop signs, yellow striping, and painting the white stop bars have all been added and complete. This week is the 40th annual Law Enforcement Torch Run for Special Olympics Delaware. Rehoboth Beach officers, along with law enforcement personnel from across the state, will be participating in the following events. On Wednesday, June 10th, the Torch Run ceremony at the Rehoboth Beach Bandstand at 7 p.m. Thursday, June 11th, there's also a ceremony at Legislative Hall at 1:45 p.m. And then Friday, June 12th, is the opening ceremony for the Summer Games at the University of Delaware, approximately 4 p.m. The SODE Summer Games are Friday, June 12th and Saturday, June 13th. Everyone is invited to be fans in the stand and support our athletes. Last week, we filmed a TEDR Talk with our new Beach Patrol Captain, Nico Caceres. They're working on a new online platform that will roll out soon called Watchtower, which provides beachgoers with a lot of safety information, risks, rules, and more. Beach Patrol also has a rookie this season who's in his 40s and joined the Beach Patrol after deciding that it's something that he always wanted to do. More on him to come. The Bandstand Summer Concert Series officially kicks off this weekend with shows Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. Additionally, you've been hearing the term Charrette Week quite a bit recently, but might not fully understand the plans. And it's been in our newsletters and on our website, but we know people are wondering, when do I come? How often? We have the calendar posted online, and we'll share out those specific details, but there is an open session each of those days, so someone, they're welcome to attend any of those open sessions. But again, we'll prominently post that schedule on our website so that people can plan accordingly. And the name of the upcoming master planning project for the commercial corridor that we've been calling Reimagine Rehoboth will also be up for discussion during those sessions. And finally, I'd like to introduce our two new interns. The first is Evan Sprucebank, if you want to give a wave. He's a junior civil engineering student at University of Delaware, and he actually started today in Henry's Public Works Department. And then our intern in the city manager's office, Thomas Bruland, if you want to raise your hand. He's a senior economics and business administration student at the BI Norwegian Business School. So welcome both. Thanks for being here with us. And that concludes my report, Mayor, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Welcome, gentlemen. Glad to have you on board. Are there any questions of the city manager? Commissioner Saunders?
Yes, just one question. I'm thrilled to death to hear that the work on Henlopen Avenue is done. How about State and Columbia? Do we have any word from DelDOT on those?
So we're still waiting on the approvals for that, but as soon as we hear, we will let everyone know.
Any idea how long it'll be? No.
Could be another week, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Mayor?
Commissioner Good?
Thank you, and I know that Commissioner Saunders worked very hard on the streets and transportation agenda and got a lot of input. And I recognize the other streets that you just, Commissioner Saunders actually just referenced are under state control. However, the rapidness with which the yellow striping was done on Henlopen Avenue, I don't have a large sample, but I have a lot of residents who feel the yellow lines are taking away the more bucolic look of the street where they purchased often their second home. They're not happy. It has, it presents in a more urban way. So I was wondering if in the future, it seems too late for this one, we could poll the residents on the actual street who are the most affected by a sudden change. Do you have any, thoughts on that?
We could always do surveying, sure.
Great, like even door to door. Henlopen Avenue is only, what, 4 or 5 blocks long. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion. I bike along there, but, in terms of safety, these residents feel that it discourages actually the cars from moving over, under move over laws because there's a yellow line now. So it probably, in their opinion, reduces bicyclist and pedestrian safety. That's their anecdotal opinion. And they don't like the aesthetics of it.
Thank you, Suzanne. City Solicitor's report?
No report, Mayor.
We'll move on to committee reports, including possible consideration of approving future advisory committee agenda topics. This is specifically for the Environmental Advisory Committee, and just a reminder that this is for reporting by the committee chair and also opportunity for public comment. It's not intended for discussion in depth by the Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Thayer.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to take just really a couple of minutes to give a quick update, haven't updated in a few months as to where the Environmental Advisory Committee is. And just to be clear, I'm not here today to ask for approval for anything. It's just simply to give an update. So from a community lighting perspective, those of you probably recall the term dark sky. We have renamed that community lighting. The committee did work through developing an ordinance for the city, which the committee did approve, so to speak. And again, approve is a very loose term here because the committees really don't have any authority. Our approval was to send it to the city manager for his consideration. So he has the ordinance that we've sent forward. I'll let him comment on it in a second. So that's one. Continuing along with the community lighting, we're now working through creating an educational campaign. And that could and probably will consist of everything of brochures, other written materials. Those written materials will hopefully will work their way onto the website, potentially into building and licensing documents to inform developers what we're looking for. But our thinking is the best way to move forward here, or one of the best ways to move forward here, is to educate the community on what community lighting or dark skies is and what it's not. And that what we're, from an enforcement perspective, what we're looking to do is not prevent residents from lighting up their own property as much as they want. We just don't want those lights to invade on other residents' properties. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's one of the core things. So we are working on educational materials. The Environmental Advisory Committee team will be working again with Taylor, the communications department, on ultimately developing this plan. Trees and invasive species is another topic that we have been working on. And within trees and invasive species, again, our focus right now is about educational campaigns. So it is educating the community, with trees, what we're looking to do, and again, when we talk, again, let me back up for a second. So trees specifically, our focus right now is on the public spaces, okay? It's not on private property. So what the team is doing is it's working with Mr. Tedder as well as Mike Lilly on the biannual plantings, talking about invasive trees, removal of invasive trees, and again, part of this is an educational campaign as well. Again, we want to educate the community on trees, on what we're trying to do with trees in public spaces. In terms of invasive species, again, our focus here again is an educational campaign. There are a lot of invasive species within the city, starting to educate the residents, ultimately, hopefully, educate the landscapers as well, so that as they do their, cleanings or work with property owners, they know what the invasive species are and work to remove those invasive species. So those are the two things I wanted to update on. Again, I'm not looking for any approvals or head nods on anything. At some point in time in the next couple of meetings, we'll probably come back with something for some type of approval. Thank you, Mayor. Any questions? Okay, great. Thank you, Mayor.
Are there any questions by members of the public? Yes, ma'am.
Nancy Doyle, 202 Country Club Drive. What is the process? I'm relatively new here. If I want to put a proposed topic before the environmental committee, I'm concerned about people who smoke marijuana on their porches, and then if I complain and it's not in their rental contract, the renters can't do it, they go onto the street corner, which is for me even worse because they went far away from me on a street corner where kids were located, right? So I don't want children exposed to marijuana smoke even more than I want to be. And maybe there needs to be an educational campaign about you're not allowed to smoke marijuana outdoors. People maybe don't know that. And I don't know whether they can smoke on their porches. Our porches are often close to each other. My concern isn't as hyperlocal as you think. We can shut the windows and survive a renter who's smoking marijuana on their porch. But what about the kids? So I would love to get involved in that or propose that. And I just want to know how I do it. Do I write up what I think the issues is or what we do and mail it to you, or for your consideration as something to add to your agenda? I'm concerned about the children that visit us because our brand is family friendly.
Nancy, I think I have a very simple answer for you. If you have any topics, approach any commissioner. I would say start with the chair of a committee and approach them. And you can also approach any other commissioners, but as well as the city manager and everything. All right, thank you very much. Anybody else specific to the environment? Thank you very much. Did you have a question?
I think I have one comment regarding Nancy's comments, is that I believe in the city you can only smoke anything. I don't know if you can smoke marijuana there, but at kiosks, this seems like a communication outreach thing to me.
I'm trying to avoid going there
Okay.
because it's not on the agenda.
Got it.
So forgive me, but, all righty. With that, we're going to move on to old business. We're going to start with C and then go to A and the B. I'm going to open the topic, discuss and possible consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 208, Property Maintenance of the Municipal Code, by adding new sections regarding aged building safety inspections. I don't think it needs any further introduction from me because I think you do a very good introduction. Corey, go ahead.
Thank you, and good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Before I go into this, I just wanted to give a very, very brief update on the 2026 restaurant inspections while I'm up here. So the city's 2026 operational refinements between code enforcement and wastewater department produced a significant improvement over the 2025 inspection cycle. In 2025, staff inspected 70 out of 111 food serving establishments, or 63%. So something we worked hard to improve on. In 2026, staff have inspected 98 out of 107 food locations, or more than 90%, with 97 passing and only one failure due to missing records. On the permit of compliance side, 100% of the city's 67 open food with alcohol establishments were inspected, with only 2 failures, both of which are working through corrective actions currently, and a 97% pass rate, reflecting the effectiveness of the city's shift to a more coordinated and efficient annual inspection model. And I just wanted to congratulate all the staff that helped that process and its efficiency between code enforcement and the wastewater department in particular.
Thank you, Corey.
So with that, I'll move into this today. This item, again, is the Aged Building Safety Inspection Program under Chapter 208, Article 2. I introduced this ordinance to the Mayor and Commissioners on April 6th. Since then, it has been refined through review with the city solicitor and in response to the questions raised at that meeting and in follow-up correspondences throughout the city. It comes back this morning for your consideration of adoption. This morning has 3 purposes. First, to review the refinements made since the April 6th presentation. Second, to confirm that the program is targeted, it's risk-based, it's manageable within our building and licensing structure. And third, to consider the adoption of it. The core program hasn't changed. The scope, thresholds, and structure remain targeted. What changed is that the questions raised since April 6th have been worked through, and the ordinance text now reflects that review. There are 6 substantive refinements since April 6th. First, the first cycle compliance. For covered buildings that are already past the 30-year mark when this ordinance takes effect, compliance runs on a 12-month deadline triggered by written notice from the building official rather than a discretionary phased cycle. So what that means is that after the ordinance is adopted, that these buildings, these covered buildings, have 1 year to provide their assessments. Second is the appeals. The appeal path is aligned with the city's existing Board of Adjustment framework. The ordinance does not create or separate an expedited appeal route. Third is cost recovery. Where the city has to act to address an unsafe condition and the owner does not, the ordinance clarifies the city's authority to recover its reasonable costs grounded in the city charter. Fourth is the transfer of ownership. If a covered building changes hands while a defined Chapter 208 obligation is outstanding, such as a past due report, a non-compliance submission determination in order to repair or correct, or an unresolved repair plan obligation, the ordinance requires disclosure and written acknowledgments so that the obligation cannot simply disappear through a sale or a transfer. Fifth is the electrical. This section was clarified as documentation of third-party or permitted electrical evaluation, not city electrical engineering review. And sixth, written determinations and report sufficiency. The building official issues written determinations, and the ordinance now includes clearer criteria for what a sufficient report must contain. Each of these changes traces either to a question raised on April 6th, to solicitor review, or to both. I wanted to be direct about why this ordinance exists and why are we bringing it to your attention. We have older buildings, multi-story buildings in a coastal environment, including buildings along the ocean front. Salt air, moisture, wind and water intrusion all work on building materials and structural connections over time. Much of that deterioration is not visible from the ground and may not be obvious until a qualified professional evaluates the building. What this program asks is reasonable. Covered buildings receive 1 structural assessment every 10 years, and a facade, building envelope, and balcony or deck assessment every 5 years. The purpose is to identify problems while they are still maintenance or repair issues before they become emergencies. And in my professional judgment, this is a reasonable public safety measure. So this is also not a blanket citywide mandate. The automatic covered building universe is roughly 25 buildings citywide. The program applies to buildings that are 4 stories or more, or greater than 50 feet in height, excluding detached one-family dwellings. Smaller buildings are reached only where there is documented risk through a limited scope trigger for specific exterior elements such as balconies, decks, or similar components. Detached one-family dwellings are excluded entirely. The ordinance also stays in its lane. Chapter 208 is focused on structural, facade, and exterior falling hazard risks. Plumbing, general life safety systems, elevators, signs, and awnings remain under the existing building, fire, state, or property maintenance authorities that already govern them. The thresholds are not frozen forever. They can be reviewed after first cycle implementation experience once the city has real operational data from this program. On appeals, the ordinance follows the city's existing board framework. Final administrative determination under this program may be appealed to the Board of Adjustment. No separate board is created, and no separate or expedited appeal route is created. The board process continues to apply. The ordinance also makes clear that an appeal does not pause enforcement where the building official has determined that unsafe or imminently dangerous conditions exist. Safety is not stayed while an appeal is pending. Routine failure to file a required report remains an administrative code enforcement matter. It is not converted into a variance issue or a cost versus safety balancing exercise. Several questions and concerns were raised after April 6th. On overlap with state law, including DUCIOA, the ordinance does not duplicate a reserve study requirement. The DUCIOA is the Delaware Uniform Common Interest Ownership Act. In plain terms, it is the state law that governs common interest communities, including condominiums, and includes reserve study requirements. A reserve study is primarily a financial planning tool. Chapter 208 is a life safety and property maintenance inspection program. If an owner or association already has an adequate professional report, that report may be considered if it meets Chapter 208 scope and sufficiency requirements. On the availability of qualified professionals, the ordinance requires Delaware licensure. It does not require the professional to be based in Rehoboth Beach or even based in Delaware. Qualified regional firms may perform this work if the responsible professional is properly licensed in Delaware. On the repair timing, the one-year deadline is not a repair deadline. It is a reporting deadline. Repair plans propose completion timelines based on the engineer's recommendation, and those timelines are subject to city review for reasonableness, public safety, consistency with the findings, and interim protective measures. And on staff capacity, this is designed to fit within building and licensing's workflow. Owners retain the licensed professionals. The city receives the reports, reviews them for sufficiency, and processes any repair plans through the same type of intake and review process we already use for permits and code compliance. The automatic covered buildings universe is roughly 25 buildings citywide. First cycle notices will go out to covered buildings that have reached the 30-year trigger, and staff review will fit within our existing workflow. No new staff positions are required for this. There was some concern about owners passing compliance costs through to the tenants. The ordinance assigns compliance responsibility to the building owner. It also includes recitals in the whereas clauses, encouraging owners not to pass inspection, engineering, testing, reporting, or compliance costs through to tenants. That is a clear policy signal. But the ordinance cannot rewrite existing private leases, including triple net commercial leases that already allocate costs between private parties. The recitals are policy guidance. They are not an enforceable anti-pass-through rule, and they do not create a private right of action. The city solicitor confirmed this distinction. The city may require owners to perform inspections and repairs, but the city cannot dictate cost allocation inside an already existing private lease. So the ordinance states the policy clearly. Without overreaching into private agreements, the city has no authority to rewrite. And cost is a fair question, and I want to answer it honestly. The program is owner-funded by design, but the owner is responsible for retaining the licensed professional and for addressing unsafe or deteriorated conditions identified through the process. The cost will vary by building size, access, scope, and condition. Repair costs are condition-driven. The ordinance does not create deterioration. It identifies unsafe or deteriorated conditions that already exist. The ordinance also does not require a building to be brought up to current construction codes solely based on age. Where there are cost controls built into the structure, limited scope reports are allowed where appropriate. Prior professional reports may be considered if they meet the ordinance's requirements. Repair timelines are proposed based on the engineer's recommendation and are subject to city review. And any city review fee, if imposed, would be established by resolution under the city's adopted fee schedule. I do not think a single dollar estimate would be responsible because the actual cost depends on each building size, access condition, and what the professional report actually finds. A suggestion was raised at the April 6th meeting about whether the city could verify condominiums insurance and recent carrier-driven inspection as a lighter alternative. We considered that, and the answer is that those materials may be useful, but they are not a substitute for the program. Proof of insurance is not the same thing as a signed and sealed professional inspection on a public, predictable schedule. Carrier practices vary, coverages can lapse or change, and the purpose of this ordinance is to create a recurring professional evaluation process tied to public safety, not to rely on private insurance practices. That said, the ordinance does allow useful documentation to be considered. If a carrier-driven structural assessment or prior engineering report meets Chapter 208 scope and sufficiency requirements, that can be considered. That accommodates the concern without replacing the program. To close, this ordinance has been refined through solicitor review. It is targeted to a known documented risk. It is manageable within existing staff, and it is proportionate to Rehoboth's building stock and coastal conditions. Older multi-story buildings in a coastal environment carry a known long-term maintenance risk. One structural assessment every 10 years for covered buildings over 30 years old is a sensible minimum safeguard. For those reasons, I recommend adoption of Chapter 208, Article 2, and I'm here for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Corey. And accompanying this support document is the presentation is version 2 in red line version, and also the same version accepted. You present your response to our desire for cost figures on page 44. You made a good case, I believe, indicating that while we expressed last meeting that we didn't want the cost passed on to the tenants, that's something we really can't control. And I just wanted to emphasize that. There are several pages that reference the involvement of the Board of Adjustment. Did you all have a conference with Fred Townsend, our Board of Adjustment attorney at all on this?
Yes, Mayor, he understands that it's coming, and we discussed the appeal process, which is
Okay,
similar to all. If I may, at this point,
Yes.
you all have in front of you a document which changes the language in 208-25 appeals. Just to be consistent, Commissioner Stewart raised with us over the weekend the issue of appeals and wanted to make certain that it was very clear that it was to the Board of Adjustment and not changed in any way. So to be consistent, we changed the language in C. An appeal under this section shall be filed in accordance with the procedures and requirements applicable to the Board of Adjustment and the rules and application procedures for the Board of Adjustment. That is not, we removed the reference to Chapter 270. Doesn't change it in any way. We just removed the reference to 270.
Very good. Are there any questions
Mr. Mayor.
from up here? Commissioner Stewart? No, dang it, I apologize.
Another Freudian slip with that.
Commissioner Good.
Thank you. Mr. Shango, I do appreciate your following up on that question I had about insurance coverage. But in the immediate term, like, I was hoping, I mean, I don't think anyone can forget who is familiar with a sitting member of Congress, Mark Sanford, who failed to have insurance coverage on a rural property, and a child, a neighbor, tragically drowned on that property. So, I mean, people, it's unbelievable how many people, due to cost, sometimes, have failed to renew their insurance. So I was hoping, instead of just noting that that's not sufficient, but I think especially it's only 25 buildings, that's something that building and licensing should do every year in addition to this new program. And it will be more than 25 buildings, because it will be those that are less than 30 years old. That's my first issue. My second issue is, make no mistake, this will be a financial cost borne by condo owners, eventually their tenants, because this will be similar to a capital assessment when they have to replace the roof. So, it may not be major, but to say that, I'm glad the mayor has acknowledged we can't control that, but it will raise carrying costs to owners of these particular, who own units in these particular buildings, and to their prospective tenants. So let's not pretend otherwise. So I'm hoping to hear that maybe we can start being pretty diligent about contacting the condo boards or whoever's running, owns, or the owner of the building, to get proof of insurance. Because I know in condos my husband and I have owned in the past, it was in the insurance company had an incentive to make sure the building was structurally sound. And I do appreciate your work on this, because I know that a soffit fell off the Henlopen condominium about 10 years ago, and by a miracle, it fell onto the boardwalk at 5 in the morning instead of at 8 in the morning, when it probably would have hit someone. So I appreciate all the work. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Gossett?
Yes. Corey, thank you very much. There's a lot of work and a lot of thought goes into it. Just a couple of questions. You said the first cycle is about 25 buildings within the city?
Correct.
Okay. And the other aspect in here, you talk about under build-in cost controls, and point 2 was prior professional reports may be considered as sufficient. Is there a time frame on those? I know our policy is that for surveys, they can't really be more than a year old, but is there any guideline here guideline, I guess, about prior professional? Is a date, how long those reports could be, it's a 10-year report, it's a 2-year report, to bring into connection of what is available? That
wasn't hard-coded. That was left to the building official's determination. With that being said, though, this would still run for structural 10 years and for facade 5 years.
Right.
So if it was a prior report that was 9 years old, we could potentially accept that, but then in 1 year's time, we would require a new report, as that report was 9 years old. One year after that, they'd hit the 10-year period.
Great. And as a parallel question, is there a plan? I know we adopted the International Building Code in 2019. And there are new updated versions of that. Is there a time frame that we will look at adopting the current code?
Yes. Early first to second quarter, calendar year, between the first February or March, I anticipate bringing back to adopt the full 2027 I-codes. International Property Maintenance Code is part of that. We can do that, and it will not affect this Article 2 at all, including our Chapter 102 means for appeals. Any of those sections we can modify, we can change. This simply adopts by reference, and we'll be doing that in less than a year.
Great. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mayor. I think you did a terrific job. And, when Patrick first raised that, I thought to myself, oh, come on, it's in the discretion of the building official. But then I realized if I give you a report and it's 9 years old and you accept it, and then you tell me I have 1 year, I would point to this and say, nothing here says I have a one-year cycle. So I think I do think it might be good, as a suggestion, I don't know how our solicitor feels, but if you're gonna, some parameters are around the staleness of reporting, or just don't, am I making sense? Because if you're gonna do this time thing, and it's nothing in here about changing the cycle, and then you go back to somebody whose outside report you've accepted sufficiency, and it's stale, and you believe that truncates the cycle, but it doesn't say that, So, because this says every 10-year structural, every 5 years, and if you're telling me I can accept an old one because I think it's good enough, then I think we're inviting some challenges. So maybe not, but I was looking at Rick, and he's an attorney, and that made me think of that.
Thank you. We haven't hard-coded that in. I think that's something that can live in policy, much like our surveys live right now. For decades, we've gone through, for building permits, existing surveys, and it's left up to the discretion of building and licensing to find out when a survey is too old versus when it's at a decent age. We can do that through policy. If we were to hard code it, the only thing I would consider to recommend, because it would be equal, would be 12 months as from the date of this adoption, requiring that at least an assessment. The repairs don't have to be made, but the assessment has to be provided to the city within 12 months.
Anybody else? We're going to go to the members of the public. Is there anybody here that would like to speak specific to this proposed ordinance? Nancy? Chief?
When I first heard, this is Nancy Doyle again, I'll just yell. When I first heard this previewed, I thought this is really good, proactive management of the city and a reflection on our city manager's expertise. And Corey's a credit to our staff. And this just confirms it. It's just wonderful, it's proactive, it's what a good city should do. A family-friendly city should care about the health of everyone and do this. It's wonderfully done, wonderfully presented, and I'm proud that my modest tax bill, part of it goes to pay his salary.
Thank you, Nancy. Anybody else? If not, we'll bring it back to this table. The agenda allows us to vote on this at this time. We notice that there is one amendment proposed in front of us, specific to Section 208-25 Appeals, Section C, that would need to be referenced. And then Susan Stewart, do you want to, I don't know if you want to include any of your mention?
I actually wanted to hear what the solicitor thought of my idea, but
Okay.
I'm Corey's the expert, and he's been doing this a long time, so I'm comfortable with that. I thought, did you want me to read the amendment for whoever's reading it? Starts on 145, the one that Lisa, we identified earlier, that's on this page, so.
Forgive me, I think if we just move to vote on the ordinance with the amended language, that would be sufficient.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I would like, I'm willing to take sort of a handshake on it, but I'd like, before we vote, everyone to agree that building and licensing, it could be July 1st, it could be November 1st. Contact the owners, and you have the records of each of these buildings, and say that the city wants to see the current insurance policy. So, because I feel like that's the easy way, the common sense approach before this whole new program is rolled out. And that's a problem, because I know homeowners who've gone without homeowners insurance, which is never a good idea, but, you know, whatever, some of them sort of self-insure, they don't have a mortgage on the house. You know, mortgage companies will require, you know, insurance. So could we, you know, have some, you know, just assurance that you could have your staff start calling around and asking that these insurance policies be, you know, sent to you within 30 days?
Commissioner, Commissioner, you've now mentioned that twice. I think that without putting demands on them, I would be comfortable if the city solicitor and city manager and building official made that decision.
Yes, Commissioner, I'm not certain, I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure we have a nexus necessarily to inquire as to that insurance. It's not directly related to this ordinance, but I think that what we will do in the future is discuss how those documents can be helpful with this ordinance.
For just a point of clarity, building and licensing, so a lot of the work that we do is with licensing. And to have a city license, there are two things that we always confirm before we issue it. One is that they have state licensure, and they provide proof of that. And the other one is the COI, the Certificate of Insurance. So we do, for every single license that we annually renew or that we issue new, those are 2 points that are fundamental points that we verify.
Those are for businesses, right? Not for condominium buildings, though, right?
That would be, you're correct in that sense. It's for any license of any kind that the city provides.
I'm concerned about condominiums where you have, you know, neglected siding, roofs, whatever, and, you know, I'd like to know that they're carrying insurance, which is a start, because insurance companies generally do demand structural studies every, I don't know, whatever, periodically. So, but, okay, well, I'm not going to press this any farther. I don't really get anywhere, so, thank you.
Mayor, if I just have.
Commissioner
Yes, thank you.
Gossett.
Corey, thank you for all of this again. Just a couple of clarifications. Under design professionals and under definitions, line 152, you state a Delaware licensed engineer and/or architect. And then throughout the rest of the document, we just refer to design professionals. Would that refer back to the definition to extend to architect and/or architect?
Correct.
All right, thank you. And line 158, we talked about facade, building envelope, exterior walls and wall covering systems, and any attached accoutrements, trouble with that word, but including, and then we list several. Would it, and I look to the solicitor off to this because of past experiences, would it be wise to, after the word including, but not limited to, that phrase in there?
Corey, are there other?
I don't see an issue with that, but not
Again,
limited to.
just of where we've been questioned before, that it doesn't specifically call out X in the code. So I think if we could just add the word, this was line 158, under the red line, is after the word including, but not limited to. And I think all of my other questions were addressed in your presentation. Thank you.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we accept this ordinance, and with the changes, one change to 208-25, Section C, filing. And those are before the commissioners, and it simply means that we strike the words the manner and within the time provided for appeals to the Board of Adjustment under Chapter 270, Article 8, parentheses, Board of Adjustment, in parentheses, and the rules and application procedures for the Board of Adjustment, and instead put in accordance with the procedures, time requirements, and rules applicable to the Board of Adjustment under this. And do you want me to read what the whole thing?
No.
Okay.
No. And did you mention Commissioner Gossett's
I'm sorry, I forgot yours. I was following
line
this.
158 to add include but not limited to? Is that it, Patrick?
Correct, that's accurate.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Susan Stewart and a second by Commissioner Mark Saunders to adopt or amend City Rehoboth Beach Code by establishing an aged building safety inspection program for certain existing buildings and exterior building components, including 2 amendments as noted. Is there any further discussion? I would like to make the following comment before I vote on it. And really, I think the whereas clauses are excellent. And there's 3 of them that are key that I want to emphasize in case anybody has not read this. And that is, whereas the tragic collapse of an aging residential building in Surfside, Florida underscored the importance of proactive inspection and maintenance of structural systems, building envelopes, balconies, and similar exterior components in order to identify and address hazardous conditions before they result in life or property, loss of life or property. And whereas City of Rehoboth Beach is a coastal community with environmental conditions that may accelerate deterioration of building materials and structural connections, especially in buildings with elevated exterior elements exposed to salt air, moisture, and wind. And whereas the mayor and commissioners find it appropriate to establish a structured, risk-based inspection and reporting program for certain aging buildings and exterior building components. And for me, this is illustrated in one scenario by the Scirocco Hotel, the importance and the need for that. So with that, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Commissioner Galante,
Yes.
Commissioner Good,
Yes.
Commissioner Saunders,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett,
Aye.
Commissioner Thier,
Yes.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
and the mayor votes yes, and the motion's carried unanimously. Thank you for a good job, and thank you for everybody's input.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
Thank you, Corey. Now we're going to move on to 8A, old business. Discuss and possible consideration of executing a lease for Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach Chamber of Commerce Visitor Center at 501 Rehoboth Avenue. This topic was introduced at our May 4th Commissioners meeting. Following information shared at that meeting regarding the museum, we paused our discussion to give time for additional thought and for the chamber to have a conversation with the museum folks. Today we have in front of us 3 attachments. A final version of the lease between the Chamber of Commerce and the city dated May 27, 2026. A letter dated May 14th from the chamber to the mayor and commissioners responding to discussions that took place at the May 4th Commissioners meeting. And the third attachment is a lease addendum authored by the Chamber of Commerce. The addendum was provided to the city by the chamber, and following review by the city solicitor and city staff, there are no objections to the language of the addendum. Therefore, we will consider the lease and then the addendum separately. Kate from the chamber is here, the executive director. Would you like to quickly address the letter you provided dated May 14th, as well as the addendum? If you would, come to the center podium, please. And once more, state your name and position.
Hi, I'm Kate Van Vorst. I'm the president and CEO of the Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach Chamber of Commerce, who operates the visitor center located at 501 Rehoboth Avenue. As stated in the letter we submitted, the chamber has negotiated in good faith over the past few months with city agents to reach a mutually beneficial agreement that will provide meaningful service to the community, residents and visitors alike. Operation of the Visitor Center has been a key component of the Chamber's mission, which is to promote business, tourism, and civic responsibility for decades. In fact, the Chamber was instrumental in getting the railroad station back to where it is and in the state in which it currently sits. We have been a dedicated steward of the property's historical significance during that tenure. We look forward to a continued partnership with the city of Rehoboth Beach in supporting a vibrant and thriving community, and we would respectfully ask that the city approve the lease and the addendum as they are today.
Thank you, Kate. I believe we need to be mindful that as a city, we engaged in good faith lease negotiations with the chamber. It is not consistent with sound governance practices to be simultaneously entertaining competing proposals or parallel negotiations involving the same property or subject matter. Doing so can undermine the integrity of the negotiating process, impair trust between the parties, and create unnecessary uncertainty regarding the city's intentions. Therefore, I would like the commissioners to abide by that principle and, following a discussion and public comment, consider the lease and addendum that is before us without additional discussion of matters between the chamber and the museum. With that, I'll turn it to the commissioners. Again, we'll have an opportunity for public input. And I guess I'd like to keep my momentum going for a minute. For me, this exercise was to establish conditions of a lease. We had no lease for the chamber for this visitor center. And we created a lease to add conditions of the lease, such as maintenance responsibility. To me, we were not seeking new revenue sources, but for me, the challenge of the lease has always been the amount of money, and particularly the disparity in fees between one nonprofit and another profit in terms of lease amounts. Comes down to a matter of fairness for me. And former Commissioner Jay Legree's letter to me essentially, and to everybody, essentially says what a great job the chamber's doing, and that how could we even consider charging them anything. And that's kind of what I needed as a wake-up call, frankly. Worked well for decades with the chamber, with no rent. As far as I know, it was $0. It was $1. It was $1 for decades. And it worked well into the past. What that does is that's more money for the chamber to market. And I'm supporting, even though it's not in there, I'm supporting a change to $1 a year, being mindful that the new conditions aren't cost-free to the chamber. There is a cost for them to monitor the building and do repairs and et cetera. No. Again, for me, it's a matter of fairness. I would support a $1 fee as is being done proposed for another nonprofit, and that's my spiel for now. Any other commissioners? Well, Susan Stewart, Mark, and then Suzanne.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I embrace your sentiments, and I guess what I'd like to understand a little bit from Lisa or Taylor is this came to us, this board, because of a decision made by a prior Board of Commissioners to look at these leases. Can you give us a little context on that and how that might be something that influences our decision today?
Sure, Commissioner. So ultimately, the direction that staff was provided by a former makeup of this board was to go out, have the several city properties appraised, and then for nonprofit entities to provide leases at half the market rate rent of those properties. Of course, sentiments and times change. So ultimately, the lease that the chamber did have on this, this is the visitor center, the railroad building over by Grove Park. It was $1 a year. And the chamber graciously agreed to do a few more of those maintenance items that the mayor previously mentioned, like power washing, because they have chamber members that can do some of that work in kind for them in exchange for marketing efforts, whatever. But ultimately, it's your decision what you'd like to do. Currently, we did adjust this lease rate down from half the market rate to include consideration that they were doing some of these extra maintenance items.
Commissioner Saunders?
I just want to point out that each one of our partners is different, and I don't think it's possible for us to cubbyhole them all into the same categories. For instance, the Chamber of Commerce does represent our downtown businesses, but they also compete with our downtown businesses by representing businesses outside of town, whereas Main Street is exclusively a Rehoboth Beach hometown boy, so to speak. So I don't think that we can put everybody together, and maybe it's not a good idea to have a set policy of X number of dollars or 50% of market value or whatever. Maybe we should look at these individually as what they add to the city and what they're expending to promote our city, and look at it as a holistic situation. That's all.
And Mayor, if I may, I would also add that the chamber also leases their headquarters, which is also a city-owned building on Rehoboth Avenue, and I believe the lease rate's over $50,000 a year. So they are paying that.
Commissioner Good?
So I was going to echo what Commissioner Saunders just noted, that because the chamber promotes Dewey Beach and places on the highway in 19971 zip code, in effect, it's reasonable in my view to execute this lease at the approximately $11,000 per year, because Rehoboth hotels are a big proportion through the accommodations tax of the chamber's budget. So it's sort of money going back and forth, but I'm in favor of this sort of half market value, plus there was some deduction for, it's great that the chamber, I mean, I think the chamber is phenomenal. And I was gratified when this new executive director who had worked there prior under Ms. Everhart was chosen to lead it. So I certainly hope we can decide not to continue at $1 per year, which doesn't seem appropriate given some of the metrics. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Galante?
So first of all, I just want to start by saying I appreciate the collective pause that we took on executing this lease on May 4th. It feels to me that there were conversations that needed to happen. There was correspondence that occurred. There's obviously a change perhaps in approach here. I also am really glad that the pause provided an opportunity for the chamber and the museum to come together. And I see representatives of Main Street here as well. There are 3 tenants that are right next to one another, and having them work together is critically important. And I think what the pause did was it enabled that connection to perhaps happen in a way that it hadn't in the past. I see some shaking heads in the audience. A very, very productive meeting. We all got feedback on how that meeting went. So I'm glad we paused, and I think that the addendum in particular is really strong and positive.
Anybody else? Before I go to the members of the public? Nope. Any members of the public who would like to speak on this? Mr. Truitt and then Kate? Just identify yourself.
Yes, good morning. Roger Truitt. I'm the president of the Rehoboth Beach Historical Society and Museum. Thank you, commissioners and mayor, for working with us on this matter and for allowing me to speak this morning. I'll try to be brief. I'd also like to introduce Heidi Nostrom Evans, who I think you've all met before, sitting over here, our amazing executive director. And she and I met with leadership of the chamber several weeks ago and had a very productive meeting. We've gone through a strategic planning process over the last year and developed or refined our mission, which is to preserve and celebrate the history of this great city. The city's been here over 150 years. There are a lot of historic buildings still remaining, thankfully, in part due to prior actions of this board. For example, in 1976, the bicentennial year, Mayor Miriam Howard, I think our first and maybe only woman mayor, was instrumental in preserving the Anna Hazard tent house, which was about to be destroyed, about to be demolished on Baltimore Avenue, but she and the other city leaders paid to have it moved to what was then called Martin's Lawn, and it's sitting there today. And in fact, for the first 30 years of the Historical Society's existence, which came into existence that same time, was the museum. And we now have a larger museum, the old Ice House, which again, the city was very instrumental in. So we stand on the shoulders of a lot of people who sat in these chairs and on the board of the Historical Society to have what we have today. So our strategic plan includes a plank to look at historic structures in the city, to work with the city government and with owners of those structures to make sure they get preserved to the extent they can within reasonable limits. So we had a very good productive session because the lease was put on pause with the chamber leadership, and we came up with some provisions that were not in the original lease that you'll see before you in the addendum. I won't repeat them because they're right there. But it does recognize the historical importance of the depot, which is right at our front door, so we see it every day. And one of the things that I think comes out of this whole process that's helpful to me and our board is we need to develop a procedure, perhaps, to work with the city on other historic structures so that we can at least be consulted with. Some structures that are old may not have historical significance for one reason or the other, but some do. And so we'd like to, going forward, develop that kind of process.
Thank you, Mr. Truer. And did want to, your time's up, but
Okay.
I did want to acknowledge receipt of your 2 letters. And I would hope that in the future, you all come directly to City Manager Taylor or Tedder to be able to just continue to discuss your desires for that.
Thank you, we will.
Thank you. Anybody else? Kate, you wanted to speak?
Hi. So, yeah, Kate Van Voorst, President and CEO of the Rehoboth Dewey Chamber. I just wanted to address a few comments because I do think sometimes because we are the Rehoboth Dewey Chamber, folks don't really understand exactly what we do or where we represent. So we do represent the full 19971, which this chamber actually started as the Rehoboth Chamber. And then when Dewey was incorporated, it became Dewey. And as Route 1 has grown, we have focused on making sure the community thrives as a whole. We do receive a good portion of funding for marketing purposes through Southern Delaware Tourism, which does come from the state through accommodation tax and now short-term rental tax. But to be very clear, when we utilize those funds, they have to be spent in a very, very strict way to market the area only. So things like salaries, assets, so if we owned a building, a mortgage, or a rent, that does not apply. A lot of that does not apply to those funds. So when we look at those sorts of expenses, we have to budget from a different pool, which is membership dues, original revenue that we generate as a staff. We work very hard to generate it. But just to clarify, those funds that come from the state only can go towards marketing and very limited actual business expense, like power or something like that. The chamber has always been a wonderful partner with the city. We operate the Boardwalk kiosk at our expense. We staff that at our expense. We also, when we market, if you look at the majority of our campaigns, they are focused on the beach because that is why people are here. Seasonally, you may see us add in there in the winter, like tax-free shopping but it's always gonna be the beach plus. And in terms of what areas we focus on, while it is, yes, midway all the way down to halfway across the Indian River Bridge, a large part of our focus has always been Rehoboth and specifically downtown, because the beach and boardwalk are gonna be the draw, whether a business is on Route 1 or in Dewey, the beach and boardwalk are it. So just wanted to clarify that for everybody.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? All right, we'll bring it back. Is there any more discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
If I may,
Commissioner
just a
Gossett?
question for Kate. I just to confirm my own mind, the agreement of the lease, that was reviewed and approved by your board, correct?
Yes, so our board, we had 2 representatives from our board that did work with me in those negotiations with city staff. We then took that lease to the board once we had made some revisions to it that were agreed upon. They did approve that. Again, when we met with the museum, we had board representatives. That's always going to be how it is. And they did also approve the addendum as well. If the commissioners choose to lower the amount, they're never going to be upset about that. It does allow us to then focus that funds on other things that we can do. But yes, the board did approve the lease and the addendum as they are presented to you today.
So I'm looking up here is we want to address these 2 things separately. One is I would seek a motion with or without any addendums to approve the lease before us. And then after that, we'll look at the lease addendum. Anybody? Commissioner Gossett?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the lease before us. Is that sufficient?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Mark Saunders and a second by Commissioner Suzanne Stewart to,
Mayor. What the heck?
Okay, first name was
we
correct.
have a motion, we have a motion by Commissioner
And a second.
Mark Saunders and a second by Commissioner Suzanne Good to authorize the city manager and the mayor to enter into the lease agreement between the city and the Chamber of Commerce. This is as is, folks, right? Right. Is there any further discussion up here? If not, I'm going to do roll call vote. I usually rotate. I'm going to start with Suzanne Good.
Aye.
Commissioner Saunders.
Aye.
Commissioner Gossett.
Aye.
Commissioner Thayer.
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart.
Aye.
Commissioner Galante.
Yes.
And the mayor votes no, but the motion carries 6-1, and the lease is adopted as in front of us. With that, we'll move on to the lease addendum. It's on the screen there. I don't know that there's anything further to discuss about that. And the city solicitor had indicated we'd like a second separate motion to approve the lease addendum.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Mayor, oh.
Commissioner Galante?
I'd like to make a motion to.
Oh, I had a comment
Oh.
before any motions. I think in this particular, Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead.
I just think for the sake of transparency, the public should be aware that Main Street is a recipient of a $60,000 annual grant. And because I believe of a lack of sub-metering, the Delmarva power bill is paid in its entirety for Main Street. I believe it may be connected to some of those outlets in Grove Park and to the restroom, so, sub-metering may not be possible. And of that 60,000 transfer, 15,000 of it is to cover health insurance for the executive director of Main Street. So I think we should just be clear that down the road, there may be a need to reduce the subsidy to Main Street because the dollar per year lease, of course, is another major subsidy.
Commissioner Good, have you moved on to the Main Street topic?
I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about
We're
the,
doing this.
The addendum.
I'm very sorry. I apologize. I thought you said we're moving on and you didn't see a reason. Okay, you're just moving on to the addendum.
Mr. Mayor,
I apologize.
Commissioner Galani?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the lease addendum dated 18 May 2026 for the chamber lease.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Chris Galani and a second by Commissioner Susan Stewart to adopt the lease addendum in front of us. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, and the motion is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Kate. Thank you, Mr. Truitt. Heidi?
The addendum, which we didn't.
All right, next on our agenda is old business B, discuss and possible consideration of executing a lease for Rehoboth Beach Main Street at 509 Rehoboth Avenue.
So, Mr. Mayor, may I just
Does
clarify?
anybody want to handle this?
Okay.
Hold on. Go ahead, and then Suzanne, I'll get to you later.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. So before you is a lease for Main Street out at the Grove Park complex. Ultimately, Main Street has not had a lease before this. So in staff's direction and quest to implement leases throughout city properties, we've worked with the city solicitor, we've worked with Main Street in good faith to develop this lease. It does carry $1 a year lease price. Ultimately, that's where we settled, and city solicitor and I are here for any questions you may have.
Commissioners? Commissioner Good?
So I apologize for the premature introduction to this
Please don't make us listen to it.
topic. So I will just summarize by saying, I think we should be holistic, once I believe this lease will be approved, in making sure that we don't subsidize Main Street more than absolutely necessary. The business climate right now is sort of tepid, so I at this point, this lease is fine. It codifies, or it puts into writing what maybe should have been put into writing some years back. So I appreciate Mr. Tedder with the staff getting this done. But the amount of money Main Street is drawing from the city is not insignificant, even though the Main Street USA, which is a national program, was not intended to be subsidized by the towns in which it operates. It was normally intended for rural communities which are distressed, which have generally less affluent demographics. Rehoboth Beach does not present as a distressed rural community. We qualify only because Sussex County as a whole meets the requirements for the Main Street USA operation. So I'm comfortable with this, and I just hope that if the city's finances worsen further, that this could be something that would be considered, to ask Main Street to raise more of its funds through its own efforts.
Thank you. Commissioner Saunders?
Just as I said earlier, I think each of these partners needs to be looked at individually. In this case, I think the benefits derived from Main Street far exceed the lease agreement that any lease agreement that we would give them. So I think that they are a bargain in any case, and I think this lease is completely appropriate at $1 a year.
Commissioner Thayer?
Yeah, so I don't want to, as the liaison to Main Street, I don't want to repeat what Commissioner Saunders said, but really echo it. I would add a couple of things as well. One is they do raise a lot of funds there, and the funds that they raise, they plow or eventually invest back into the business community. So I want to be clear that they do raise a lot of funds on their own. They do support themselves, and as part of supporting themselves is taking that money that they raise and investing it back into the businesses. I'll give an update. I think one of the things that Main Street has done to really kind of step into the void over the past 6 or so months, if everyone recalls back to the conversations up here on the bandstand, and very specifically where we heard feedback from businesses in the horseshoe, as I like to call it, or in that general area, their concerns about the bandstand events. And we had several discussions about that. Where Main Street has really stepped in the void is that leaders from Main Street, as well as leaders from the business community, I've worked to facilitate conversations with Mr. Tedder, as well as Communications Director Brooke, to improve those two-way communications between the businesses and the city. So where I'm going with this is for those of you that recall the conversations that occurred here about the bandstand events, the concert specifically, one of the things that came out of that for me, I think I'm not going to speak for Mr. Taylor, Mr. Tedder, excuse me, I'll let him speak for himself, is that we needed to improve those two-way communications between the businesses and the city. So this committee that Main Street has created and is now working in conjunction with the city manager is working to improve those communications. So again, they bring a tremendous amount of value to the city. Some of it is, right in front of us, and some of it's not. So again, I support this. I think it's important that we continue to support Main Street because ultimately they do support the businesses here in the community. And I will kind of reemphasize, I think it's really important that we continue to improve this two-way communication between the businesses and the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'd like to go to the members of the public. Does anybody like to speak on the specific to the lease between the city and Main Street? Mr. Perry?
Good morning. Rick Perry, resident, and I'm also chair of the organization committee of Rehoboth Beach Main Street. Thank you for your consideration of this lease. We greatly appreciate it. I want to thank the staff, for their review of this with us and their acceptance of our comments on the lease as we work through it. I just want to clarify a couple of points. First of all, the $60,000 that we get from the city, and thank you for that, is used for programs. It does not cover the cost of health insurance for our executive director. Secondly, we haven't asked for an increase in years in the amount that we asked the city for under the grant program. We have maintained the level of $60,000 now, and we work hard to cover the expenses and provide the services and benefits to the city that we do. One other thing, and this has been mentioned before, but I want to clarify that the Main Street America was never designed for rural areas. It was intended to be for downtowns, particularly downtowns that were blighted and needed to have redevelopment work done. And so in many cases, Main Street is part of the municipal government. We have examples of that here in Delaware. We have maintained Main Street as a separate entity, not fully connected and funded entirely by the government. And I also want to remind the commissioners who weren't probably here at the time, but in 2016, 308 Baltimore Avenue, or Lake rather, was intended as the office for Main Street. Faye Jacobs approached me last evening, as a matter of fact, and reminded me that in 2016, she walked through that building and with the architect and laid out where she wanted the offices, how she wanted things arranged. And somehow, and this has been reported in the press, somehow Main Street never got that office. And so we have been working in a building that is very cramped and is becoming very difficult for us to manage. So I do appreciate the fact that you will grant this lease to us, hopefully, at the rate of $1 a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Dan, did you want to?
Good morning. Dan Slow, Executive Director, Rehoboth Beach Main Street. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, City Manager and the Mayor. I just want to clarify a few things that Commissioner Good keeps bringing up, and that is about the electric, okay? I have installed LED bulbs throughout the entire office. I keep the office at an appropriate temperature. So I welcome each and every one of you to walk in that office and see what the temperature is, okay? We appreciate that you take care of Main Street. I really appreciate everything that you do. We love working with the city and partnering up with the city. So I just wanted to clarify that we all appreciate, from our staff, myself, and the volunteers. We work very hard to keep Main Street thriving, and I will keep working very hard for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Anybody else? Carolyn? Heidi, you'll be on call.
Carolyn Diefendorfer, city resident, but I am also the assistant treasurer for Main Street, as well as a Rehoboth and Bloom volunteer and co-chair of the promotions committee. I just wanted to give another little piece of history to you. Back in 1994, this body, and largely headed by the efforts of Jan Conacy, she asked for Main Street to be created. There's a press release went out in September of 1994 talking about the initial meetings with the state. The state had allotted $50,000 that year to create main streets within the state. So this organization was created because the city wanted us here. We are the only nonprofit that is solely dedicated to the 1 square mile. We will pretty much do anything that we are asked. Several years ago, we were asked to take over the Verrazano Garden. The mayor sees me there 3-4 times a week tending to that garden. We will help in any way we can to promote this city. I know that Rick addressed the health insurance piece, but I will tell you, we changed ticket prices for our events in order to cover that cost. The grant does not do that. We recognize that what we get from the city is very important, but we have worked really hard to not have to ask for any additional funds from year to year. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Oh, Heidi.
Good morning. I am Heidi Nastrom Evans. I am a resident of Rehoboth Beach, and I'm also the executive director of the Rehoboth Beach Historical Society and Museum. And I just would like to say that I agree with keeping the lease for Main Street and for the chamber at $1 and for the nonprofits, because I would like I would first of all like to thank the mayor and the commissioners for the wonderful grant that they give the Historical Society every year. But also that grant money is so important to this city because we are a cultural economy here. People come and visit this city because of all the wonderful things they can do here. They can go to the museum. They can go on the Margarita Crawl. They can go to the Sea Witch Festival. You know, all of these things bring the money into the city. So I just would like to mention that it's really important to fund the nonprofits and to help them succeed so that we can continue to contribute all that we can to the vital community that we have here. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Anybody else? Commissioner Thayer?
Thank you. Heidi, thank you for making that comment. One of the things that you said is so important, which is people come here for the whole package, right? I'm going to say something about Bloom in a second, but I wanted to address your comments first. They come for the entire package. It's not just the museum, but it's all the efforts that your organization does throughout the city in trying to preserve the heritage of this city, right? It's so important, and to me, that's part of the whole package. I didn't mention Bloom, so Carolyn, I apologize for not mentioning Bloom. And I'm doing this not just for yourself, but I have a wife that volunteers a lot of hours for Bloom. Huge cost, right, that the city does not bear. And it's not just the cost of the flowers and the planters. It is the countless hours of the volunteers that go into maintaining all of those planters. You mentioned Verrazano Garden. You mentioned that your organization, Bloom, is willing to do anything if you're just asked. It's a huge cost savings for the city. If we didn't have Bloom, the city would have to do something. So again, I just wanted to, I missed that. I apologize for missing that, but I did want to call that out. So again, thank you for getting up. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Just a comment also. There's been some question, maybe a little bit off the topic here, with regards to the donations made to the organizations, the nonprofits within the city. I have always looked at these as an investment in our community. It's not just writing a check. And through my efforts about 3 years ago, we redesigned that process as opposed to just sending in a letter of request to develop a true grant program. And in doing that, I think it also allowed those organizations to take an internal look at themselves. And as was mentioned here today, that you've, as a historical society, had developed a strategic plan, which was one of the requirements for the grant application. And along with that, we also then require the individual organizations to come back to the city to give us an update of how the money is spent, their successes, their kind of, I won't say failures, but reorganization techniques or what have you, so that not only the board up here understands, but the taxpayers, where this money comes from, understands how that money is invested by the community and the results that we see year to year to year. And I can only say from my personal observations that all of these organizations have certainly improved in their health, not only from the standpoint financially, but from the standpoint of the structure in which the organization and the board works and coordinates with one another. And I'm so glad to hear additional information or additional discussion among the groups themselves to make a better effort to make the city better than we ever had. So I go from good to great, we keep moving forward. But I truly look at these as an investment, not as just writing a check. Thank you.
Would somebody like to make a motion?
Before we do a motion,
Commissioner
I just want to
Galante?
make a
Yes,
quick
sir.
comment. I think it's really important that we be factually accurate when we're talking about these topics. And Commissioner Good's walking back into the room, and Mr. Perry made this point. Main Street is far bigger than rural communities. There are, I just looked it up, 860 nationally accredited programs, Main Street programs across the United States. There were 24 in Washington, D.C. They include communities like Dover, Orlando, Hartford, Connecticut. These are not rural communities. So just want to make sure that we're being factual about how we're presenting this. I also want to echo the comments made by Commissioner Thayer and Commissioner Gossett. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, get motion.
Mayor, I move that we accept the agreement of lease for 509 Rehoboth Avenue to Rehoboth Beach Main Street.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Susan Stewart and a second by Commissioner Chris Galante to authorize execution of the lease agreement between the City of Rehoboth Beach and Rehoboth Beach Main Street that's in front of us. Is there any further discussion?
Oh, Mr. Mayor,
What?
Just a clarification.
Yes.
Yeah, I did not state that the only requisite to become a Main Street USA was to be a distressed rural community, because small towns with other parameters qualify as well. But I am a supporter of many of the efforts of Main Street.
Thank
I just
you.
want
I'm
to
calling
keep the
the-
subsidy to reasonable levels.
Thank you. I'm calling the question. Commissioner Mark Saunders,
Yes.
Commissioner Gossett,
Aye.
Commissioner Thier,
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart,
Yes.
Commissioner Galante,
Yes.
Commissioner Good,
Yes.
and the mayor votes yes, so the motion's carried unanimous. Thank you for being here, Rick, and your team, Dan. With that, next item of business is new business, quarterly update on strategic plan implementation. City Manager Taylor Tedder.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Good morning again. So here we are with the implementation update of the strategic plan. And that's not good. Just a second. So anyway, ultimately, the strategic plan was adopted in April of 2025, the city's first ever strategic plan. And that is a 5-year plan spanning 2025 to 2030. And the thing that staff really wanted to underscore was having an implementation plan so that it was not just a plan sitting on the shelf.
Marco, can you put me back online? Okay, that's me. So let me play with it a minute.
This actually just came back up, so.
Tell me when to advance. Are you able to fix this, or do we need to carry on with my version?
This computer's logging right back in, so.
There you go.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So the strategic plan is available on our website under the government tab. And also we have a whole page there where you can see the implementation plan. Ultimately, what we've expected is each year we would complete 20% of the action items. And at this point, we are actually at 28% complete, so a little bit ahead of the curve. But ultimately, we are excited to talk about the things that we've accomplished over the past year. So if you want to go to the next slide and one more slide. So the strategic plan is focused in 3 different priority areas. And the first priority area is infrastructure, which is super important, especially in a community like ours. We were able to complete the Phase 3B project out at the wastewater plant, and with the Phase 4 bid awarded, that is already moving forward. The PFAS mitigation project, we went out to bid for that, and all of the bids have been received and opened, and we'll be coming back to you at the next meeting on the 18th for bid awards so that we can move forward on keeping our water the best that it can be. We've made progress on our stormwater plan and projects, and currently working on developing a comprehensive pervious surface ordinance to bring back at a later date. The LED lighting upgrades, we completed all of the median lights on Rehoboth Avenue along with paving Rehoboth Avenue. The P25 radio upgrades, that's all of the police portable and in-car radios. So those have all been upgraded for the switch that all public safety is moving to a different band for secure communications with dispatch and fire and EMS. And then our LPR cameras were deployed at both entrances of the city to make sure that we're able to further protect with all technologies available possible. Beautification is another large piece of the strategic plan, and after all of the mention of Rehoboth and Bloom, I can't forget to mention them, but our Public Works Department did help them completely change out all of the soil and their planters recently so that the flowers can continue to flourish, and they just look so great. We did have pine trees planted in Central Park last summer. And then our arborist has focused heavily on invasive tree removal, not necessarily related to species, but the actual trees, invasive trees themselves. So we've worked really hard as well on street trees when appropriate, and then providing watering bags to people to keep the trees in great health. Next slide. We also worked heavily on the new ADA transition plan so that we can get to full compliance citywide. We've also developed the recommendations on King Charles Avenue and now have the crosswalks on King Charles complete so people are safer as pedestrians and bikers. We also negotiated and finalized easements for the Dewey Beach stormwater and ocean outfalls. We did not have easements there before because the city had previously leased that land, but now that we do not, we needed easements for our infrastructure. And then we've also recently entered into an agreement with DenRec for raking Dewey Beach to keep it clean and up to our standards. We also coordinated the partnership with the VIA to fund the Children's Fishing Pier reconstruction, and that was a donation of $200,000 to the city and $50,000 held in escrow with the VIA for maintenance of the Children's Fishing Pier. And then we've continued to monitor the Grove Park Canal Dock, which has proven that it is stable and not moving any further, so we're very excited about that. Next slide, and next slide. So priority area 2 is operations within the city. The RFI that we launched for master planning efforts for the commercial corridor of downtown, we did get 4 responses, and I'm planning to bring those to you all at your meeting on the 18th. Very excited to talk more about that. We've coordinated with state and federal leaders, really fostered our relationships with our elected officials at the state and federal levels, which has really helped us out in pursuing grant opportunities and working on the city's charter changes as well with the state legislature. Very exciting that the police did obtain the Delaware Police Accreditation Commission accreditation recently, and the 911 Center was also reaccredited. Building and licensing has worked very hard to move to 100% business license compliance among all of our businesses in town, and we've continued to receive the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Award for our excellence in financial reporting on our budget. Next slide.
Are we holding questions till after the entire, Mr. Mayor?
What's your preference?
Questions as we go is fine, sure.
Okay, yeah, because, well, it's fresh.
Commissioner Good?
Thank you. Well, it's fresh in everybody's mind. 2 questions, and while I greatly appreciate the 100 pine trees which were planted in Central Park, I had asked about a year ago about could be shrubs around the white fence that Mr. Matlos arranged to be installed around the pump station once that work on State Road was completed. I'm just hoping, because it's bereft of greenery there, we could, I know trees may have a root problem, but if you could update us maybe at the next meeting whether some shrubs or small trees could be put in there. Second issue, and I was so appreciative of Commissioner Galante spearheading potentially an effort to get the Dewey Beach and those northern beaches back from the Delaware State Park management. And I'm very concerned that the city, I mean, we do have the raking equipment and they apparently don't, but we're going to be doing all this raking and we're not, we don't get any revenue anymore from Dewey, like the Dewey Beach parking lot. So that decision was made I didn't hear it discussed. So I think there needs to be a stepped-up effort to recover all those beaches. We basically, actually, I looked at the map, we actually only control 66% of the beach that we did in 2023. I mean, that's how direct, how major the loss of beach length was. And my last question is for this Reimagine Rehoboth, which I was concerned about because you were basically having contractors without payment putting together plans, and in my view, that means they're just looking for an eventual major consulting contract with the city. I'd like to know of the 4 respondents, you said four contractors or consultants have responded. How many of them have in the past done lucrative, have had contracts with the city for consulting work of those 4?
2.
2, okay, that doesn't shock me. I was thinking it might be all 4. Okay, that, I happen to be out of town the week of the 13th, although I will be back for the meeting on Friday the 17th. So I will not be able to, participate in those listening sessions or whatever, but I've been concerned as to why we're going down this road of trying to get free information from consultants when it's, for them, it's just, they're just marketing it to us. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Galante.
Thanks for jumping in, because I think it's a good way to do it, to ask questions as we go. Couple of questions and comments. I'm a huge tree person. I am always looking to advocate for our tree canopy. The watering bags are great, but I think one of the things that we need to do, and I'm going to send Mike Lilly a note about this, we need to communicate to our residents what water bags are. There were water bags up and down the trees on Munson, and about 3/4, maybe 80–85% of them never got filled because people didn't know what they were. So I think when we put a water bag on a tree near a home, we need to create some sort of communication, education material so that people understand what it is. That's number 1. Number 2, on Deauville Beach. So, thanks to you, Taylor, and the city solicitor for negotiating the memorandum of understanding on the raking. One additional point I wanted to make so people in the community hear this is that part of what's happening at Deauville Beach right now is resurfacing of the courts. The courts were in terrible condition, and DENREC is in the process. I was down there about a week ago. I don't know where it's progressed. Maybe they're done, maybe they're still in process, but they're resurfacing all of the pickleball and tennis courts, which were in terrible condition. So that's an outcome, something that the city is not paying for. Curious about just the timing on the fishing pier. When is that happening, the replacement?
So right now it's in the permitting process, so it has to go through the Army Corps of Engineers. So I don't think we have any other update other than it's currently in the permitting process. Okay. But the plans are finished. We're ready to go with the contractor once we get the permitting, but ultimately I believe we have to wait for a certain time of year.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner, for the comment. Evan Miller, Assistant City Manager. So one of the things also that we have to avoid is any work or construction in the lake during the summer, only because of the heat and the humidity. So all along, really the plan was in the fall we would start construction, so that's why we're going through the permitting process now.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Taylor, go ahead.
And as you saw on the 2 agenda items that we had earlier, we did conduct appraisals on 9 city properties and currently working to renegotiate all of the different leases to move forward on those to make sure that we have that standardized process across all of our leases. As you know, we do participate in the Enterprise Fleet Leasing Program, and one of my goals was to make sure that we were getting our fair market value out of some of the older vehicles that hadn't been flipped as per the program. So we were able to secure almost $63,000 credit on some of the vehicles that we were able to swap out that were in the budget process this past year. We also rewrote many job descriptions, primarily Gene Lee is always rewriting job descriptions to make sure that they accurately depict the job that people are doing. But Marco's position, the Compliance and Grants Administrator position, formerly Deputy City Clerk, really has focused on overhauling our FOIA process. So now all of that's tracked in our iCompass portal. There's a standardized process, and it's worked out really, really well to make sure that we're on top of all of our FOIA requests and submissions. We've also improved our workers' compensation insurance compliance by restructuring our safety committee attendance. We participate in the Delia Founders Insurance Trust. We're actually one of the founding members. It's an insurance pool of local governments across the state. Evan and I participate on that board, and so we've really made it a point to make sure that any unintended injuries of employees are being mitigated through training, and it's been working. We also,
If I
go ahead.
Just,
Commissioner Gossett?
Thank you. Could you highlight the safety committee and who makes that committee up and how that works a little bit?
Yeah. So safety committee are meetings that are held by our workers' comp insurance. So what we were doing is we send different employees from Public Works and Police, which are typically our highest experience of injuries. And so they go participate in the safety training and then bring that back to the other employees to share the information with them. And our consolidated schedule of fees and penalties, that was approved earlier last year to make sure that all of our fees and penalties were in one place. And I believe in the next month, we will be bringing back the proposed adjusted fees for your consideration. So very, very excited to get that done. Next slide. Next slide. So priority area 3 is access and amenities. And ultimately, our summer concert series was a great success. We also launched the Beyond the Beach newsletter, which has also proven to be a great way to communicate more local news with our residents. And our various communications improvements that have been made over the past year have really been focused on being proactive and really getting information out, telling our story, and trying to represent the city in the best possible light that we can. The other very exciting thing that we completed last year was working very hard on the Human Rights Coalition Equality Index, the Municipal Equality Index. We ended up scoring over the total 100 points that are actually available at 108, but they will only give us 100. And it is the only city in Delaware that has that designation. And if anyone's interested, they can go on the HRC website and look up 100 communities, and there's not that many across the nation. So it's very complimentary that the city was able to get there, but only with partnership with Camp Rehoboth, by entering into a memorandum of understanding with them to essentially take credit for a lot of the programs that they offer people, such as testing and education and things of that nature. The Beach Patrol headquarters opened, and now I'm pleased to say that the punch list is complete on that property, and our 78 lifeguards are out there really enjoying using that space. We've also made strides in our ADA improvements related to sidewalks and the signage and new Moby mats that we just installed for greater ADA access, and continuing to move forward with the virtual permit research and implementation. Ultimately, we would be on track for next season to roll out the virtual parking permits, but Evan has been working very closely with the vendor on that, and we'll be bringing much more information to you soon, and developing a complete public information campaign, because that's going to be key in our success on that. And then we've also focused on some business-friendly initiatives, working very closely with the Economic Vitality Committee with Main Street. Our communications director has worked to create videos highlighting different businesses throughout town, doing that video work ourselves in-house, and also working to go on business walks, handing out cards to make sure that they have everything that they need to be successful in our community. Next slide, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Good?
Mr. Tedder, I do, I hear your summary of, in particular, communications, but I'm very concerned, and I think we all make mistakes, and we at least ought to own what really happened in the aftermath of May 19th. I'm not going to talk about anything that's now with outside counsel, but I feel that the communications of this city was inadequate and woefully just sort of, there was a secrecy surrounding it. It was sort of like top-down panic, and we had only a few top administrators making decisions. Many of these administrators have never had their own college students and had no familiarity with some behavior that goes on with college students. So I think we need to do better, and now we're stuck with a legal tab to outside counsel. We should have been able to handle that ourselves. We should have been able to recognize potential problems in the way it was handled and in the way that the press, including we have a reporter here right now from the Cape Gazette, were not given information, and I hope we can do better.
Taylor?
So staff drafted and submitted a finalized shoreline public access plan, and that is now a requirement for beach nourishment. So we did get that completed so that we are still obviously eligible for our much needed beach nourishment, and continue promoting to our legislators that that is our top priority, and we continue to be told that it will be happening at some point. So. We've also worked with the applying for the technical assistance related to affordable/workforce housing, and you did approve that. So I believe that we just had our second call related to that technical assistance. So more information as we get further along in that process. We're also very excited for the 250th anniversary of Independence Day, and did expand our fireworks show for this year, so we're really excited. I hope everyone enjoys that, and have continued to develop new historical markers in partnership with the Delaware Public Archives. So the latest one that was installed was at the Beach Patrol facility, but there is one soon planned for Poodle Beach. So that is the next one that will be going up. Next slide and next slide. Ultimately, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but we do have quite a hefty capital plan this year of $13.6 million, and we're very dedicated to completing that. Financial year 25, we did have a $1.2 million surplus, and right now we're estimating that until the audit is finished, it looks like over a $1.5 million surplus for FY 26. So we will be looking forward to getting the audit completed very soon. Next slide.
Or Mr. Tedder?
Yes.
I am the one that gives the floor.
I did ask your permission first.
Commissioner Good.
In light of your financials showing what you're showing, would there be any consideration to funding and taking care of that $800,000 needed stormwater repair on Delaware Avenue? I was uncomfortable when you deferred it, this was back in February or March, since we were told by a stormwater consultant who cambered out all the stormwater pipes back in 2021 that was the most urgent among the stormwater deficiencies and potential. I won't bore you with the story of various pipes which have been on a calendar for remediation and then end up collapsing like mere months before the work was to have been carried out. So is there any possibility we could change the decision that you wanted to defer that? I'd like to go ahead with that.
So Public Works Director Matt Lose is monitoring that. However, with governmental fund accounting, this would be the surplus from FY26. We're in FY27. So of course, if we did see it as a need, we could always defer a different project that we budgeted this year, or potentially revise the budget to use fund balance to pay for that project. But Henry is actively monitoring and looking at that, and so I could definitely provide more information based on what he's seeing now at a later date.
Great, yeah, it would be, overall, if you could present to us all of the projects, and they basically were between, these are numbers from 2021, between $1 and $1.5 million per year for the next 10 years. And with inflation, probably it's closer to the 1.5 million they estimated. So yeah, I'd like to get it underway. I think we're being foolish and short-sighted to defer infrastructure of that nature, because if a stormwater pipe collapses, you don't just have the repair that you originally were supposed to do, you have damage to sidewalks and streets. And anyone who followed the Potomac Interceptor, now that was sewage rather than stormwater, but still it was the same principle. The cleanup in the aftermath of that far exceeds the cost of that repair, which was supposed to have been taking place this month, June of 2026. The section that collapsed on January 19th, 2026 was on the calendar, and the heavy machinery would have been there this month. But too late for that, because, you know, they had to route it through the C&O Canal and everything else. Thank you.
Taylor?
Thank you. We did secure a $75,000 Homeland Security grant related to the Bandstand Boardwalk Pedestrian Safety Project. That grant is on hold with the federal government, but it is still awarded to us. So if it does become unheld, then we will definitely receive that money for that completed project. We also closed out a $50,000 surface water matching planning grant related to the stormwater management plan work that was done, and continuing on the virtual parking permit, which I already mentioned. So next slide and next slide. Some other major milestones that occurred over the last year: we did complete the Tidewater interconnect, so we have that flexibility if something was to go awry with our water system, or we didn't have enough water, we can tap into that redundancy. It's really important to have redundancy with public water supplies, so we're really happy that we have that now. The flock safety cameras, we also expanded our security cameras on the boardwalk for greater flexibility, and those cameras actually use cellular technology, so it's not the radio wave antennas that the other cameras use, but those are helping us to have further greater security on the boardwalk. Boardwalk Historic Designation Task Force was established over the past year. And then you just approved the Aged Building Safety Program, so very happy that that is finalized now. And then, of course, the pedestrian safety improvements at the boardwalk and bandstand were completed in time before the summer started, so we were really excited to have that finished. Next slide and next slide. So next steps, we are going to plan to calendar this a little bit better and try to get back on the cadence of quarterly updates related to the strategic plan implementation. But ultimately, thank you, and I'm here for any additional questions you have.
Commissioner Saunders?
Thank you. I just want to say I think you did a tremendous job on this. I'd love to see this made into a flyer or something that we could put in the hands of our citizens and our residents. Is there some methodology that we can do that? Maybe I'll look at Brooke and ask her.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways that we could do something to get the word out. Yes.
We need to take credit for what we've done, in other words. You need to take credit for what you've done.
Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next bit of business is review future meeting dates. I had announced earlier that I think Juneteenth is on our regular meeting day, so we've moved it up to Thursday, June 18th at 2 o'clock is our regular meeting. With that, we'll move on to citizen comment. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment off topic? Nancy and then Colin.
Three things. One, as to Commissioner Saunders' point just now, or just electronically in one PDF. Not all of us need a handout. So the younger people will take it in a PDF on the website. There's a lot of information, multiple PowerPoint, but one page would be great. Good idea. Point two, I was busy. You saw me come with my hair wet. I was eating breakfast during this meeting. I didn't have time to get something healthy. But I got these lovely cookies from Marketplace 59, that new store. And for those who think that I'm trying to kill you with calories rather than, and don't even cover this, Chris, okay? Because I'm doing this this is not me like grandstanding or virtue signaling, or maybe it is. Maybe we should have a virtue of kindness, and I'm trying to push it to you because most of you barely get paid to do this work. So I am trying to do that. But I have little mini apple cider donuts if these are too much calories. So I give this to you guys to thank you for your public service with napkins.
Thank you, Nancy.
And then, on a much more serious vein, huge fan of Chief Banks. Know someone very high, used to be high in nation's law enforcement, who speaks of his integrity and kindness in policing police officers. I know you guys can't talk about recent events that are you have a private counsel for, which you should. Although there's times when Commissioner Good says, do we need this contract or not? I love that she asks those questions. Here's a classic case where you want to have an outside counsel and you want to do investigation. No one, including me, is going to be dumb enough to get ahead of the facts here. I wait to see them. So thank you for getting the outside counsel. Just really good lawyering there. Can I say, as a resident of the city who loves the fact that we have 100% civil rights equality index there, right now, while the facts are being investigated, we should all have a joint concern that all college students, including Delaware State University college students, know they're most welcome here. And I know they are. I know that when they came to perform, the marching band did at the bandstand a couple of years ago, they came the day earlier and they were around and patronizing businesses, and we enjoyed having them, and we see them around. If there's anything citizens can do to make sure that they know they're welcome, let me know. I volunteer as a busybody. For example, to collect funds from the community to give them a 15% discount on pizza and have it available at the visitor centers if you present a Delaware State ID. For Brooke to put on our electronic message sign, Delaware State University students welcome, just a cheerful thing that rolls through the thing. Something to make sure that they know that in the interim while the investigation's going on. It would break my heart if someone wanted to come and thought that they weren't welcome. So if there's anything, I know it's an ongoing situation, there may not be something that you guys can definitely do, but citizens could step up and send the message out, non-defensively, just you're welcome, or I could, like Main Street needed a busybody to go around and collect these pizza discount vouchers. I'm volunteering so that we know they're welcome, but make sure they know they're welcome. I absolutely volunteer. It would be a project near and dear to my heart. If anyone can think of a way to, while you guys kind of have to be in a cone of silence, we can step up and fill that gap. I'd be happy to do that. And thank you for your patience, and I continue to thank you for your public service.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you very much. Any other citizen? Collins? Yep. State your name and relationship. to the
Hi there,
city.
Collins Roth, resident, live on the boardwalk. Similar topic of the events in May. I was concerned, I've made those concerns known, I think, to most of you via email of what I thought, and felt that we put ourselves in a position where we changed from sort of responsive policing to individual incidents to a preemptive collective guilt. As the city reviews what happened, I'd like to urge the city to also engage in some oversight and analysis of the 2025 curfew. You'll remember that was passed in response to a similar incident. Obviously hasn't done anything to stop these sorts of things. It's been a full year. I expressed concern at the time that curfew was subject to potentially inconsistent and arbitrary enforcement. And I'm concerned as to what's happened over the last year. I have no reason to believe it has or has not been, but as we're reviewing where we stand on some of the issues of last May, I'd like to know things like How many stops have been made? How are officers deciding who is above and below 18 before they make a stop? Is this similar to a New York City stop and search? How many of those stops have proven to be false due to exemptions or age? How many citations are issued? What basis is taken between stopping somebody and choosing to give them a citation? What basis is there? And finally, what's the ethnicity and race breakdown of all of those stops, citations issued and citations not issued? And I think it's really important that the city think about these issues in the context of what happened in May. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Colin. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on. The next item of business is commissioner announcements. This is abbreviated announcements. Anybody? Commissioner, again, abbreviated announcements and not discussion pieces.
You can't possibly predict what I'm going to talk about. It has
No,
nothing,
but-
it's unrelated to anything that's previously been under discussion. So may I have the floor, please?
You have the floor.
So I want to give a shout out to 3 incredibly intelligent and articulate women, one of whom is in the gallery, our executive director and president of the Chamber of Commerce, along with Lieutenant Governor Kyle Evans Gray, and with one of our
Gay.
Gay.
Do not get a gay state.
And well, that's because I attended an event. In fact, that came up because there was a man named Ben Gray there, and he talked about being mocked as Ben Gay when he was in high school. Anyway, and the third woman is one of our restaurant owners in the city, who also is now providing some workforce housing, Ms. Susan Wood. I was privileged to attend and learn so much and wanted to bring up the issue which affects a lot of our service workers, restaurant and hotel employees in a city where something like 80% of the business occurs between like Friday at 5 p.m. and Sunday at 5 p.m. The acute shortage of childcare that they face. And at times when daycare centers simply aren't even up and running, which are, Monday through Friday till like 6 p.m. And Lieutenant Governor Gay herself experienced childcare issues when her own 2 daughters were younger. So it's something that I think the city, going forward, because the governor and the lieutenant governor are planning to bring this forward to alleviate the pressure on young families where 1 or 2 of the parents are working weekends and evenings when childcare is almost unavailable. It often falls on grandparents or relatives. So I would like to express my gratitude to the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this particular forum and putting some ideas together with the help of the Lieutenant Governor, who will be shepherding this through the General Assembly, potentially in the coming, maybe next year.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioner Gossett?
Thank you.
Commissioner
Just to
Thier
follow up
after.
on that, I'm glad you brought that up. I was also in attendance at the luncheon there, and I also followed up again with Jacqueline Houlihan, who is the Sussex County contact for Lieutenant Governor's office, and she and I had quite a conversation, and I mentioned this in lunch also, about including this type of information in our comprehensive development plan, because this is really affecting our workforce housing, and it just follows along with that. So I've had conversations with Jacqueline, and we'll continue this on. And Lieutenant Governor Gay was very appreciative of trying to link those two. That again, it's a land use plan, but the impact of availability of childcare is most important. So there are continuing discussions and really putting some rubber to the road to make that happen with the CDPs in the future. Thank you.
Commissioner Thier?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to thank the city manager as well as communications director. And again, this is just really another plug for highlighting the Special Olympics events on Wednesday, the law enforcement torch run. People start to gather around 6:30 with the official kind of speeches occur at 7 o'clock. It's a really great event. I don't know how many law enforcement personnel participate, but dozens and dozens of law enforcement personnel participate. They run into town, there's a ceremony at the bandstand, and then they run out of town. So really encourage everyone to attend that. It's a great event. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we're going to move on to executive session. I'd like to have somebody make a motion
Mr.
to
Mayor.
go into executive session for, and then read the entirety of the motion in the agenda, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Commissioner.
I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of having a strategy session involving legal advice or opinion from an attorney at law with respect to pending or potential litigation as permitted by 29 Del C, Section 10004B4.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Chris Galante and a second by Commissioner Susan Stewart to enter into executive session for the reasons stated. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And before we go into executive session, I'd like to indicate that to the public that we will be exiting and going into the caucus room. The duration of the executive session is unknown. No actions will be taken in executive session. We will come back into public session to adjourn. And again, no actions will be taken when we're in public session. Thank you. I'd like to entertain a motion to come out of executive session and back into public session.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Galante and a second by Commissioner Susan Stewart. Come out of executive session back into public session. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. We are now back in public session. No actions were taken inside executive session, and there's no action to be taken at this point, and there being no further business, I adjourn this meeting at exactly noon. Thank you.